Hello once again and greetings to everybody. This is the second part of the interview slash podcast with Guruji Matsyendranath Maharaj. Adesh, Guruji, it's been a long time since we recorded and published the first part of the interview. So a lot had happened in our lives during this time, especially for you. Within this year, 2022, you finally grab a chance to travel, and you traveled a lot. Can you tell us something about these trips, as well as the reasons for them, and what are your actually experiences and impressions related to them?
Yeah, absolutely right. Many things happened during this 2.5 years. And you, as an astrologer, as Jyotisha, I think you know well that ninth house, which is related to spirituality, dharma, the process of searching, education, and moral principles, and traveling too.
Yes, and pilgrimages, yes.
Absolutely trumped during this couple years. So we saw global terrorism.
Indeed.
Suppression of people, particularly. This is suppression of this house.
Yeah, the ninth bhava.
It is some psychopaths. No need even, call their names. It is quite clear nowadays. But fortunately, I think partly we won that people for whom freedom is, it is like oxygen. So we cannot imagine our life without freedom. It is quite clear that that very advertised diseases.
Correct.
It is not a matter of the health at all. So it is a matter of suppression of people and control. Some psychopaths, because they believe that they can put themselves instead of the God.
Yeah.
It is
playing gods. Yeah.
It is sort of arrogance. This is sort of madness. Insane people, yeah. And many people, they're afraid, their hypocrisy, their weakness. We can talk so much about it. Maybe some people, they say, no, better to talk about spirituality. But see, if you see very obvious fraudulent situation, global fraudulent situation.
Yes.
And it's also related to our condition of mind, our mindset, so that they try to put everyone to particular frames. So they disrespect human nature. If people, they want that digital reality naturally, so there wouldn't be reason to push them forcefully. So it is very forcefully. It is, destruction of all constitutions of all countries, and that presidents of majority of that countries now they demonstrate that they're nothing, they're clowns. Personally, me as Australian, I want to tell to you and to all Serbian people very sincere thanks for your I can say his hero, Djokovic.
Yeah, yeah.
And very sorry that situation happened in Australia. It is the shame. It is the shame. It is a disgracement of our country. Actually,
Right.
Australia, a very beautiful country. Here are many good people. He should know that Australian people, they love him and they support him.
Yeah.
So I visited to India to my Gurusthana. I met my Guruji, and also he has the same view on this
Oh,
situation.
yeah. Yeah.
This topic. He told me that this is global crime which we never saw, which we
Mm,
never. So what we should do, we should be very honest and we should speak true,
right.
because many people they are thinking, so we are very spiritual.
Yeah. Don't talk about those topics.
Yeah. It's interesting subject,
And
but
there
it
is
is
another. Yeah, there is another. I thought about it because people somehow tend to, if you are speaking the truth and if they don't like it, they're like immediately, why you are judging other people? It is not I'm not being judgmental, you know.
another thing
Mm.
also, it is conspiracy theory.
Yeah, everything is conspiracy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yes. So they know. I don't know how they recognize what is conspiracy, what is real. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what definition of it.
Correct.
So yeah, you can go there. No. It is conspiracy,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I saw what, for example, Facebook blocked. So which kind of videos? So if you talk about aliens, if you talk about Anunnakas, Nibiru, and so it is allowed.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm saying who disagree with how I can about theory of weather, for example.
Mm-hmm.
If some scientists they disagree,
Mm-hmm.
so they suppress them.
Right. Right.
Many scientists kick out. They put them to marginal environment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They finance some hypocrites. So nowadays, science, it is sort of, I can say, it is not science at all. Now it is like a religious cult
Cult. Yeah, the same like religious. Yeah.
in the bad sense.
The other side of the extreme. Actually, they are both extreme and fanatics. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sure. It is now it is like that.
And very quickly before you continue, because you mentioned the India and your Guruji, and later on you will tell us actually about the other travelings as well, very quickly. But I think that we will maybe made in maybe interview number 4, part number 4, we can touch all these topics, these worldwide BS, so to say, thing in the last 3 years. But very quickly here, unfortunately, I saw, I don't have nothing against anybody who really chose to put anything in his or her body, so to say. The problem is with these, the governments, the worldwide, let's call it organized fascist suppression of the freedom.
Yeah.
And all of the sudden, everybody is concerned about my health. Like, okay, so I am the one who is responsible for my health. There is nobody who can tell me anything about it, because all these people who are talking about health and all these so-called organizations
They care about health,
about
but
profit.
at the same time they talk so much about importance of decreasing of population.
Yeah. One of the yeah, completely. And what I saw actually, the number of these so-called intellectuals, quasi-intellectuals, so-called people of science or whatnot, even some kind of Jyotishis, tantrikas, yogis, okay, they openly talked in favor of these, I will call them idiots. So there is no intelligence over there. There is no wisdom over there. And there are no kind of bravery, nor I will call it because I value it so much, and these are the integrity and dignity. So really, the intelligent and wise people have these qualities. I didn't saw in these, but on the other hand, I know some people who are real scientists, who are really very intelligent people, who are completely against all of these things which are happened in previous 3 years. So I know all these so-called protocols and what was happening because I'm very surrounded by the people in the medical field. So I know the other side, not the side what media told. And all these so-called intellectuals immediately jumped on what only media and their governments say. And they think highly of themselves like they're intelligent. They're not. But anyway, please continue about you went to the India and your Guruji.
Right. It is also, I can remark that you mentioned about bravery, but I saw some tantrikas who declare them that they have virya bhava, vira bhava, so nature of hero, they followers of Kalachara and Agora and all sort of artificial declaration. But when that situation happened, they demonstrated their cowards.
Yeah.
It is very obvious. And see, these people, they have fear about their social image. And you can see what's going now in China.
Yeah, the same thing. Yeah.
They have a different level of social images. For example, governments, normally they declare that they have war with each other, but at the same time they're doing the same things, digitalization of their society. And, for example, cashless society. And what can happen if it could be cashless society? So people, they don't understand what can happen. So you can see what's going on in China. Many people say, no, China, they are against of US, but no, it is not really, because China, it is a field where they doing experiments.
All kinds of
experiments. Before the cheap workers for American companies, nowadays they replace it. They that experimental dimension. And that people from Economical Forum, they're very happy about China. They say, "Oh, it is beautiful. This is what we need."
Right.
So
right.
if you see it, and you say, "Yes, that is good." That the Jagi Vasudev, he cannot speak because he's very famous.
The project of India.
Yeah, in India, there are many people who want to, they have some psychological complex because in India, they have trauma from the West, from that Eurocentric people. But, at the same time, there's some hidden tendency to get revenge, and at the same time, to the sort of adoration, the West, that Asuric society, many gurus like that.
Yeah.
Instead of be devoted to own culture,
correct.
They don't understand value of what they have, and then people say, "Oh, he's very famous." They have, dreams to be like Osho.
Go to the West and huge followings and
their everyday new their sexual relationship with new white girls and then after that he can demonstrate in the West how he's like a man. Every day he has new clothes, so and it is the sort of arrogance in Indian environment that they want to show to other Indians. I'm very special.
Yeah.
Yes, he was Jaya. Very good. He's real guru. But who is real guru? Who is real Sadguru?
Yeah, we
who
can
has
talk about that subject later because I want to ask you some questions about it. But we can talk about so many topics. You know that very well. But you started, fortunately, after more than 2 years of being imprisoned, actually, in Australia. We very well know what happened over there. But in this 2022, you started to travel a lot. So you mentioned going to India and see your Guruji. And tell me, continue, please, with.
Oh yes, actually, I had correspondence with him while all that period of isolation. His answers were very special. I know he has a CD. He's understanding what's going on now. So what happened with me, and I felt his supportance. However, it is completely different if you go in India, not only through Google, some device or some. Now they want to do this. How it's called, metaverse.
Yes.
From our nature, we have 5 indriyas.
Yeah,
we should feel, we should feel touch, but there only you can see, and sometimes there are interruptions. We can be recorded always.
Yeah.
Digital reality we are searching, and sort of black magic, I can say. It's like, in voodoo, they take your image, and after that, like, with that image, they can do whatever.
Correct.
The same principles.
Yeah.
So, but when you come to reality, which created by God, not by psychopaths, completely different. A live meeting with Guru, it is much more valuable.
The fullness of experience, which are through all the indriyas. Yeah,
because this electronical dimension, it is as Jyotisha, that it is Rahu.
Yeah. It is the so-called king of Kali Yuga.
Yes, sure. So then, I met many students in Argentina. Of course, situation there is difficult. The financial crisis, all these things. It is interrelated. That subject which we discussed in the beginning. Of conversation. So, but almost 2,000 people came to my program, and even I gave my teachings in prison. So we organize it for prisoners
as well.
And my students, they saw their faces, and I also saw their reaction. They were happy. I try to help for people who have difficulties, and I think they need supportance.
Yes,
I should share a result of my sadhana.
And actually, they need it even more than the so-called regular people who are outside. Yeah.
It is interesting subject because it is now something similar.
Correct. And one more thing, you mentioned you were first in India with your Guruji, and before you were in Argentina in November of this year, October, November. Before that, you were in Europe. Actually, you were at 3 places, as I can recall.
Oh yes, of course, and also we met personally.
Yeah. Finally, yeah.
So I visited to Serbia. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Beautiful country. And I was surprised when almost every taxi driver, they know everything, concerning. No, they know, no, not artificially, concerning what's going on in life.
Well informed on worldly subjects.
Yeah, they smart people. Also, I finished our formation course in France, 4 years course, which was organized by Tara Mikhail, me, and her husband, Madhu. Indian aged person, but he looked well because he practiced Rasayana. He from South Tamil Nadu, and very intelligent man. We discussed so much about Indian tradition. So we finished that formation course, and that people who came, they were very happy. And we discuss about many things concerning to tradition, concerning to yoga, tantra, bhakti, and Vedas, everything.
So you mentioned the formation course. Actually, it was 4 years concerning the Sanskritam and yoga, right? Mostly.
It is also I organized that formation course in Russia, in Russian language. There are different principles. For example, yoga, you can see in yoga many elements from Indian culture. So Indian spirituality and Indian society, very rich, many traditions. Then you can find yoga, for example, in Vedas, in Vedic sources. You can find yoga in Puranas. You can find yoga in Tantras. And of course, the yoga of Nāth Saṃpradāya. But for a deep understanding of symbols, because see, when you use sources which associated with Goraknath, Matsyendranath, with Adinath, all these yogis who were pravartakas of Nāth Saṃpradāya. So they use, it's called Sandha Bhasha, so very meaningful language, very profound, very symbolical. Many symbols were accepted from Vedas, from Puranas, so therefore each year we study a particular subject, and of course a little bit Sanskrit. For my Russian students, I'm teaching more Sanskrit, quite enough Hindi, because Hindi it is very important for communication. We need prepared people, pupil actually.
Pupils, students.
Who wanted to be a student, so they should be familiar, because it is very profound culture. India is mother of yoga. So we should have respect to that Sanskrit, to that culture,
and with a true, honest, traditional, so-called traditional approach. And you cannot study any kind of scriptures. You cannot go into the mantra topic, which is a very vast and very without a good foundation in Sanskrit. So tell me, you were in India, you were in Argentina, in Serbia, in France, a bit in Germany as well. Next year is very interesting for you and for me, and for both of us in many ways. We have so many things to go together and see the places and do the very serious things concerning the sadhana and everything else. Before we continue, my Shakti, she asked me in one moment, was that raw vegan cake, we call it torta, was it delicious? Do you like it?
Yes, I love it. So I never had such experience. I can say every day. So you have a very talented Shakti.
Yeah.
Actually, traditionally, I follow vegetarianism, because in India it is broad spread, so it is everywhere. Very normal, and this traditional way, therefore I follow it. I cannot say that I'm completely vegan. I avoid just eat meat, fish, egg, 30 something years.
Yeah, already,
Naturally it happened. Vegan, it is also, I felt it is good for health. Very healthy food. Really.
Yeah, and it could be very tasteful as well. But for me personally, because you touched that subject, You know very well, you and me, we don't like that kind of classifications of vegetarian, vegan, and whatnot. It's food at the end of the day. But the reason, from the standpoint of India, and there is ahimsa in all of it. I understand it was the reason why I changed my diet habits, and
A big subject.
a big subject. Yeah, yeah, yeah. In the first part of our interview, you told us about your past, your experiences, not only in India, but also concerning the Nepal, because you belong actually to a couple of traditions, but mainly you are known as the Nath Yogi. So I think now is a good moment to make kind of a parallel related to these modern trends, right? So accordingly, my question to you is, where is the so-called clear boundary? Does it exist at all between the authentic spiritual traditions and these new age philosophies and religions? Yeah.
This is a rhetorical question, but I should clarify it for people. So traditional way, based on Indian culture, we cannot avoid it. Traditional way related to serious discipline, to serious responsibility.
Commitment, and yeah.
Yeah, it is not sort of hobby. So when we are talking about yoga, about Tantra or tantric yoga, whatever, doesn't matter. If it is a traditional way of spirituality, so then there should be guru. And who is guru? Guru who sincere follower of his guru,
Yeah.
and his teaching. And that tradition, saved during many, many generations. They have some basic elements. Sometimes, normally, it is in their holy scriptures.
Right.
Some people, they use Vedic sources, some like Nāth Saṃpradāya, but not only. Many elements of Vedas you can find in Puranas, in Tantras. Maybe there are different views on it. However, you should study language. Sanskrit. You should study for communication. There also importance of Hindi. Depends on which language used by your guru. So also subject of devotion. So devotion and respect to spiritual values, cultural, traditional.
Right.
So it is very important. It is very important because some people, they say, see, Patanjali, I heard sometimes here in Australia, not only Europe, Patanjali, he gave universal knowledge. So it is not Indian. But if you if you unable to read original text, and also if you never get it from realized practitioner who can be guru, so then you can be merged to misunderstanding.
Yeah. You're talking about Patanjali Yoga Sutras, for example, yeah?
Yeah, it is only one example.
Yeah.
But concerning to tantras, to any sources, many people they love so much because when you keep particular book, it is nature of Rakshasas. They want to catch instead of be open. Right. So if you open for more, it is like the space, like wind, which can penetrates and purify you. But if you catch something that it is sort of ego, then there are a lot of misunderstanding in the West concerning to freedom. They understand freedom, it is sort of ego, ahamkara. But it's very, very slippery subject, because governments, they nowadays they talk, or if you don't follow what we are insisting for everyone, so it is your ego.
Yeah.
It is not ego of government. Very, very rich, international oligarchs,
Correct.
global oligarchs. So what's going on? Most important is devotion and deep relationship with guru. Because who is guru? Guru who realize mantra, for example, and devata in his psychophysical system. Therefore he is a perfect person. So then he transmitted to you through his realization.
Right.
Therefore, we cannot. People, they don't understand what is tradition. So tradition, it is not like a particular yoga center. So because sometimes people they consider it as a hobby, yeah, yoga as a hobby, or mantras, or whatever. The way of sadhana, it is for long term. It is for all your life.
Correct.
So if we are talking about Indian spirituality, you should understand it is completely different. If we are talking about the West, so they are spiritual and social normally are splitted. So in the West, you have church, you have priest, you have monasteries, monks, and so on. Then, normal life, which is full of sins. Also in the West, you have one founder, the Adam, Eve, and so on. Yeah. But in India, so very difficult to say what is traditional, what is not. So what is orthodox? Different types of culture, different types of
traditions.
The traditions, the different authorities. But when European they came there to India, they tried to put everyone, in particular frame. So they call it Hinduism. Hinduism, that's like something one. Nowadays can remind you, you can compare
to the worldwide situation today.
Yes, it is continuation. In the West, they create own image of India, so own image of yogis. They are publishing a lot of belletristical, books that so who are gurus, who are students, freedom of personality, but sometimes any chaos, any anarchy, they say it is freedom. So their freedom without responsibility. So if there is some real dictatorship, then they apply term on that. It is sort of discipline. So it is, they very purposefully do all such kind of exaggerations. Exaggerations you can see in in field of asana yoga, that physical yoga. And
that is the question.
It's very new age.
Yeah, you touched a beautiful topic, because my question to you, I was thinking while you were explaining this. Although we will talk about yoga and Tantra and Jyotisha and Shakti and whatever, we can do it in the next part of this interview. At least touch a little bit, because these are the vast subjects. I would like to ask you a question related to the yoga, because you mentioned it. Let's call it authentic, original yoga on one hand. On the other, what is propagated as if it's part of some kind of tradition. And in fact, it's nothing more than marketing adapted for Westerners and general public, not older than maybe 100, maybe maximum 200 years, if so. And nowadays, it has become nothing more than the fitness industry. And not only in the West, you know much better than myself, it is in India as well. This yoga tourism, all sorts of unimagined variations, the so-called styles of yoga, and it seems that the term yoga is still there, but it has long been alienated from the essence of yoga itself. So, how much this trend is doing the harm to true yoga?
Oh, it is, yeah. This is the appropriate term when you say harm, because this sort of westernization of India, a lot of inventions you can see there as well. When you suppressed by colonial administration, then some accept their rules, and you try to do everything according to them what they want.
Correct.
And maybe that Indian, they use their traditional elements, but slowly they incline it, so they turn to more Western consumerism. So you can find there two main points. One, it is very physical. Prevalence of gymnastical elements, which is actually, you cannot say it is asanas, it is vyayamas. You can find it in Ayurvedic texts, quite old, but it is not named yoga at all. So it is just exercise, just stretching, muscles and so on. Some movements, it could be martial art or whatever, or dancing. It is good for blood circulation and support your physical condition. But there are some chapters in Ayurveda dedicated to yoga. So there are only methods of contemplation. That's all, nothing else. Another exaggeration when the prevalation of intellectualization
of subject,
of subject, only dry mind, the manner of which you can see in Western institutes, in universities, and so you do something, but your soul is sleeping. So because you don't understand the real value of it. Some scholars sometimes they say, no, I'm not interested in New Age at all. But so much they're talking about Hatha Yoga. So when first time, which tradition, where exercise asanas, in which sources, Vaishnava source, Shaiva source, see, you are not interested about, as you declare in New Age tendencies, but it's very obvious that even that people who know Sanskrit, so it is even this. It is not enough.
Yeah.
So they are also under influence of that environment of which was created by that situation. Then
fabricated in a way. Yeah. So the point what you're actually telling us in this moment, all of it is actually fabricated. So in order to gain the real insight and the wisdom about the traditional yoga, you need to go to the source, and as well you need to be actually in a way born for it. It is your samskaras, your karma, whether can you be realized through a tradition, a real guru or not. But here in the West, unfortunately, also in the East, in India, that yoga tourism is going all around it. So complete nonsense right now in this moment. But we can talk about yoga in the especially in the next part of the interview. We can talk about these the other things that I want to ask you. But I thought for a second, can we talk a little bit about these the continuation of these harmfulness of these modern practices, these new age thing, which are mostly money-making machines, while sometimes even greater horrors are hidden behind different organizations and modern gurus. Can we talk a little bit about what you call a spiritual McDonald's, in a way, about guruism? A couple of questions. The guruism has become a big business thing. We know that. So these big market gurus, they sprout around the world like mushrooms after the rain. But India is definitely the leader in terms of exporting such figures. But they're all around the world as well. And these gurus, they are assigning themselves these various titles, and most of them actually moved away from tradition or officially never belong to any Sampradaya and Parampara. So what will be the warning signs? How to recognize the correct knowledge and authentic guru from the most self-proclaimed ones?
It is a big subject.
Yeah.
Question. At the same time, it's very slippery.
Mm-hmm.
For example, you are mentioned the term guruism.
Yeah.
Yes, that's okay. Many deceptions you can see everywhere. Some people, they are talking so much about totalitarian cults, about totalitarian sects. If you see all of them, you can find many strange, ridiculous examples, okay. But in our real society, we have much more examples, like, many dictatorships before, like Hitler, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But even Hitler nowadays, he's very childish compared to what we see now.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk so much about guruism, about such things, something that, it catch our awareness from much more serious problems.
Yeah.
Also, but I don't say that there is no any problems concerning to wrong gurus in India.
Yeah.
In the West, for example, governments, they create such behavior of people.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I talk about majority of people that, students always innocent. They have not. So you can see how they represented that students always innocent. They have not any bad habits and so on. So only gurus, they are doing exploitation, and they never say that how it is difficult to be guru. How, I give you example, just Srividya, only one puja, Navavarana puja. Sometimes if you do only this puja, it takes continuously 10 hours, 15 hours. You can make shorter, but also how to do it shorter. You should have particular knowledge, and it is without explanation. Just do it smoothly. If you decide to teach someone this, so it is a big sacrifice from side of guru.
Yes.
So, but people, they don't understand. They very easy say, yeah, I'm student. Some people very easy say, yes, I'm guru. Therefore, it is not problem only particular side. Even we are thinking that it is different sides.
Right.
Because, they think I will come to particular guru, I get special knowledge and say bye-bye. And that's all. Just the tendency of consumerism, no understanding of proper relationship. Yes. Of course, there are many wrong teachers who are creating spiritual markets. I cannot say that money, it is only evil. So there are some rules of dakshina, but what sort of prevalation in your motivation? So if you hungry about money and spirituality, it is just external decoration of it, then it is serious problem. We are physical people, so we stay in this physical dimension. Of course, we need spend money for food, for for many, sometimes less, sometimes more. So, but motivation. So, what kind of motivation? Difficult to believe, but I'm not so familiar with that subject of money But you know, people coming to some students, they share their problems, their difficulties. So why we are talking about all the situation? Because you know, I should care about people. I should care about students, and first of all, about my personal purity.
Correct.
So my Guruji, he told me. So when I asked him what I should do, because you know, this culture which I reveal here in India is completely different from our Western environment. So what I should do to share properly your knowledge? And he told me, don't worry about it at all. Just continue to do your sadhana. Never forget about your sadhana and about your purity. So your light, like the sun, is irradiating towards to all directions. So it doesn't matter if people, they stay behind the wall. The sun shouldn't be curved to very purposefully engage to proselytism. Then afterwards, you can forget about your purity, about your sadhana. If some people, they want to be open to you, so then you can share your light. You can share your Shakti path, your you know, your purity, which you realize through your sadhana. But it happened itself naturally. So if it has happened itself, then it is
truthful
condition of real guru. Truthful, yes. This is sahaja. This is a very natural state. And you know, sometimes you don't need even so much talk with such sort of guru. You know, I can tell you honestly, most profound knowledge which I got from my Guruji, it was when I kept silence, when I didn't speak, you know, not only verbally, but also, you know, like antar mauna, inner silence, my as a level of my consciousness. So I, you know, when you're peaceful, you can see more value of your guru and what he has, in fact.
Rather than through a mere conversation, which is most of the time actually nothing more than a intellectual mumbo jumbo or a mental, excuse my French, masturbation. So
I love it.
So tell me, the guru should not be only gentle in a way. It's often a kind of learned, coordinated gentleness, nor should he flatter too much to his disciples, but he should be able to point out the mistakes and rebuke them from time to time. So what is your opinion or standpoint on that subject, in terms, because it seems to me that most of the, let's call it mainstream gurus, right, are actually telling to their students only what the students would like to hear from them, and not what is really necessary for their spiritual development.
See, my Guruji, I can give you example. He's sadhu. Sadhus, you know, you can see sannyasa not only in yogic tradition, in Tantra also they also the sort of sannyasa. Not only some ascetic way, different interpretations of sannyasa, but doesn't matter. So sannyasa is sannyasa, avaduta or paramahamsa. So there are different terms, different
titles sometimes.
Titles and sense of it. But normally in Indian society, it is even higher than top of Indian varnas, you know, Brahmana.
The Brahmanas, yeah.
So Brahmanas, so they are highest. If we are considering normal, you know, that Jatis, Varnas, so all this system. But see, even politicians, they are normally, traditionally, from Kshatriya society. Yeah?
The so-called warrior caste.
Yeah, warrior caste or managers, or traditionally, so they should follow teachings of Brahmanes. And Brahmanes, and all that Varnas, they should follow sannyasis. Then that guru, he should be independent.
Right.
Sometimes,
not dependable on the Varnas.
Yeah, some politicians, some very rich Vaishyu, can come to you, and you say, "Oh, namaskar." Oh, so what is this? What is this? So if you see this sort of behavior, it's not real guru. Then, in case of my Guruji, what I saw, so he never do like that.
Never flattered.
No. Very, very independent. So this is also sign of real yogi, a real sadhu,
And
real siddha, and real sadhu. Yeah. So this is most important. Then some people, they say, my guru is my life. But see, if you look at this life, there are not only sweeter tests of life.
Yeah.
There are many tests, sometimes bitter tests, and sometimes very bitter tests. At the same time, I have a guru, like a real person in physical body, and you can talk with him. So, but you don't allow to your guru talk about bad things, which is quite enough in our life. Then, if you no need clarification concerning to different difficulties, different problems, you just prefer to be blindfolded. So then you can be stupid. So
right.
Then if you are silly person and do some techniques, then what's value of your spiritual way and your blah blah blah, your declaration of your belonging to a particular tradition and so on. So that's artificially you have guru. Yeah, you can say, yes, I have particular guru. I go into India, I do a selfie with him, and I put a lot of photos with him. That's all. Yeah. But you never talk seriously about life with your guru, because you need only official fact that you have guru. Fact, really, you don't have anything. You are not student, because you cannot talk with your guru honestly, and you don't understand the value of honesty.
Right.
So this is a very typical problem, and people, they trying to collect only techniques, only information. Tendency of consumerism prevailed, and then they are not students at all. They don't understand that yoga, sadhana, doesn't matter, mantras, devatas. So all these things are interrelated to purity and sober state of your mindset, your worldview. So then if you're wise person, it is a sign of perfection of your spiritual condition as a result of your practice.
Right.
Then, if you see a lot of stupidity, maybe some people, they don't declare them that they followers of New Age. Some of them, sometimes they say that, I'm very traditional. I'm very traditional. their understanding of spiritual values of India is very, very primitive.
Yeah, very limited and superficial. Yeah, yeah. So actually, you are telling us in a way, unlike the authentic, what we like to call and put in some terminology of yoga or tantra or yogic or tantric tradition or whatever, unlike the modern, the neo or new waves of looking at tradition, the difference is the first so-called category is more committed to the serious sadhana, to the serious practice, and to intelligently walking through life with all its variables, with all its ups and downs and everything else. While in the new age sort of thing is more like everything is love, everything is light, everything is fine, and don't project your insecurities on me and whatnot. And everything you say, which is against their belief system, is at the very core, it is judgmental. And concerning the love, there is a dangerous practice of abusing the position of power, either through the extortion or blackmail or sexual abuse in this so-called guru-disciple relationship. We saw it through some gurus in the West, right? But not only the West, in the India as well. Although it is far more pronounced in this Abrahamic religion, but it also exists within what is wrongly called Hinduism, as you mentioned previously. And on the other hand, there are many indications that some people even deliberately made scandals and tried to betray their teachers and gurus, okay, for whatever motive was behind it. So as you say, it is not always the fault of the guru, because as a students, they think that they're the best and only fault is on the side of the guru. So what do you have to say about this very peculiar topic?
I don't avoid to talk about any subject.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I should tell you that every situation we should consider with own specifics, specific features, what happened particularly there. So we cannot say, just we have one model and project to every situation.
Yes, yes.
It is very primitive type of mind. We cannot say that it is fault of student. We cannot say it is only fault of guru. Or sometimes we can say like that it could be also.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very, very slippery situation. If we talk honestly about it, it is mutual fault. I saw some Indian, for example, who came to the West and they said, I want to do sexual practices.
Mm-hmm.
And then you ask, so Guruji, what kind of sexual practices? Yeah, this is tantric like Osho. Guruji, sorry. But Osho, it is not tantric. Okay, what is tantric? Tantric, maybe you mean that kaulachara. Yes, kaulachara. Okay, it's okay. But what is your understanding of kaulachara?
Mm-hmm.
When that student, that woman, she will assume shavasana, and I will sit on her in padmasana, and lot of ridiculous bullshit.
Garbage,
Then,
yeah.
Guruji, but wait, it is maybe Kamakya Tantra, maybe Yoni Tantra, maybe Tantra Sara, or from where you got it. Yes, from all that sources. But where? So because that people, they are thinking that wrong gurus in India, foreigners, all of them are stupid, and they cannot say that that is completely wrong. It is really so we have that situation. So then why this sort of situation? Situation because New Age. It is the same globalists, so they created that, normal McDonald's and spiritual McDonald's.
Yeah.
Essentially, it is the same. For example, they create yoga styles, the set of asana they are giving to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Right.
But we are different. You cannot see in ancient scriptures their particular sequence of postures, and because it was a personal teaching of people. Real guru, they were very flexible.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but now everything is universal. Yeah,
universal and the same.
Same
for everyone. Yeah.
Right.
Like, that substances which doesn't matter. What kind of it is very difficult to prove that you need some exemptions. No.
Mm-hmm.
One very famous man with the name of Bill said everyone must get it. Yeah. So this is so silly, and people say, "Oh, this is great person." The same things with such gurus.
And actually, you're telling that we have a lot more serious problem in this world than some of these fraudulent gurus, which is correct. I'm with you with this one. And it's a very complicated subject. And in love and war, as we say here in Serbia, for instance, for love and war, you always need at least two people or more. So to finish with this topic, and I will only ask you two more questions after it. So I think it will be enough for this time. Concerning the sexuality and its manifestation in serious sadhakas, the gurus and yogis. I'm also talking about householders, the grihastas as well, where some have indeed reached, some of them personally have reached the level of Siddha Purusha, but they are grihastas, the realized beings, and attain the perfection. They are perfected masters, but they live seemingly like others, okay, like regular people, and have intimate relationship still. So how much sex is represented as a sin by the dogmatic religions in the West? And can we really talk about anything through these categories of raga and dvesha, the good and the bad and whatnot? But I do not mean the relativization of evil. Does it depend much more on the context of the thing? That is the question.
See, first of all, we should understand that sexual energy, it is the power of growing, the power of flowering. Everything. So what is for example, flowers? This is sexual organs of trees. This is power of procreation, not only procreation. You can say also, creation at all. So it is inside of our nature.
Right.
So all universe created through this power. So therefore, we cannot avoid this subject. So we cannot say this is so primitive, so simple subject. Then, by particular technique, we can very easy control it. Then we can suppress our sexual desire. And, some people, they talk so much about Panchamakara pujas, the Marga sadhana. Then some people, they talk about Vajroli Kriya in Hatha Yoga. Then they don't understand what is this essentially. So it is not only matter of our physical nature, it is also our subconsciousness, even the soul, of course. It is a power of our soul as well. So then we cannot avoid it. We should search as much as possible concerning this subject. Sometimes people, they think that if you become older, then you lose your sexual energy. But in fact, you never lose it. This energy only merging towards to more subtle condition. Then in Tantra, they have a way of subliming energy. It is called Bhairavi Puja.
Yeah.
Bhairavi Chakra, so there are many names of it. The process of subliming happen itself through the grace, descendants of grace of Devata. Not through our ahamkara, you can control this this sort of power in our nature.
Yes.
It will not happen. It will not happen through artificial techniques, which you can see a lot in spiritual market. Of course, many gurus, many teachers, they say, yes, I give you technique very easy, you can control, blah, blah, blah. So only through grace. So if Devata will allow to you, and also it is not the process of suppression of this sort of energy.
Yes.
It is even this term control, it is not so appropriate. I can say natural regulation which happened itself.
Yes.
So like you are driving car, so it doesn't mean that you should always stop or always moving quickly. So there are different speeds. So that speed, it is regulation, but that regulation, it happens according situation, according overall. Awakening of our consciousness also interrelated to sexual power, because that mind, manas, and vidya and prana, they are interrelated.
Yeah.
So, but there are a lot of misunderstanding concerning to Bindu, concerning to many technical things. I can go in further, maybe not today, because it's very delicate, very special topic. Of course, there are some techniques, but we should understand the main principles which are there, how we can naturally sublime this sort of power.
Right. So it's actually more through realizing, through expanding what we call the consciousness through our sadhana, through our purification, and through grace of the devatas. Actually, it's a spontaneous, natural process, not something that we can, from the standpoint of the ahamkara, the ego, and the will, so-called willpower, we cannot change anything in that term. We can actually make it even worse. And that is the thing, what we heard from time to time of some priests, and not going through the transmutation in that pure essence of the so-called sexual energy, but they go to the perversion, actually, because they are trying to suppress everything else. Here also, in the region of the Balkans as well, not only in Serbia, some so-called, yogis or tantrikas or whatnot, some of them are actually selling to the poor women for a couple of €100 or something like that, selling the Tantra, which is actually nothing more than having the sex with them. Completely ridiculous thing to what Tantra is actually for some people here, right? They call themselves spiritual, but they're nothing like that. They're fraudulent people. But nevertheless, let's finish with beautiful questions. Is there any truth in the saying, the guru really appears when the disciple is ready?
Anytime we have possibility to study from someone, from particular source, depends on your level. So what you have at this point of moment, I mean, just now, you can study from that guru which you deserve. Sometimes for some people, that way should be too long before they can meet really perfect sadhaka, siddha purusha, and yogi and guru. If they have not enough purity inside of them, even if they see this guru, so they wouldn't study from him properly.
Yeah.
So therefore, yes, it is an appropriate definition, but life much more flexible. Sometimes you study from someone, you develop yourself, and later on you can meet a guru who see the purusha. So you cannot say that this is really, this is not really. It depends, depends on your situation now.
Yes.
If you study from someone, then afterwards you find out more powerful guru practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
Then in that case, if you become his student, so you should consider your previous teacher, your guru, as a cause. So why you met,
which leads you to the other one, yeah.
So because it is part of your life. So sometimes maybe your past experience wasn't so good, yeah. Teachers with some weaknesses,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but it is not your problem. It is not your problem. Maybe you needed that
Experience.
challenges. Yeah. So
correct. And concerning, continue if you have.
So this is a normal situation for many people. They cannot immediately see the Purusha from which, and also that Siddha Purusha who agree to teach them, because if you go into India, so everyone can tell you, yes, I can teach you whatever, very easy, and as I told you. So a real guru, he will be very honest. He never can tell you the way very easy, or vice versa. He can exaggerate drama of something. So no, just normally we talk about difficulties, about beauty of life. So guru, he is not a sadistic person. So he loves his student. He never wants to
do any harm to the student. Yeah.
Because he's a wise person. He's understanding law of karma.
Yeah.
And he knows what can happen.
The boomerang effect.
Something wrong.
Yeah. So
he has a responsibility.
Correct. So
love, we talk about love. So love, it is responsibility. I can tell you.
Yes, people do not realize that, and most often when I speak to the people and about there is no freedom and there is no peace of mind without responsibility and discipline.
Yeah,
there is no such a thing. And concerning the guruism that we spoke about, and various peoples and organizations and traditions and new age thing and whatever, it is the same. Like for instance, in Jyotisha, there is no Jyotisha in itself as a shastra, as a Vedanga, as the eyes of the Vedas, as they like to say. Okay, there is nothing wrong with it, but there can be a lot of fraudsters and scam people, even some so-called acharyas and Jyotisha gurus, who can harm so much, either if they go on too much of marketing and only getting the money is their only purpose in their life, or whatever it might be. They don't realize that the Jyotish is the sadhana, actually. And that is the reason why they fall, and why many of their predictions fall and whatnot. So for the very end, concerning the guru-shishya connectivity, is guru actually a reflection of the disciple, like a mirror? And does everyone gets the guru on the merits of the previous incarnations and not the one they would like in this lifetime, in terms from standpoint of the ego?
I can give you examples. So sometimes people, they come to me, they ask me, can I be your student?
Yeah.
Many people like that. I say, see, it's very easy. If you feel that my way is valuable, my way is pure and very important, so who can prohibit to you? Who can prohibit? So if you want. Also, another thing, it is not my human decision to accept someone or not, because I cannot say that I belong to myself. I belong to Devata, to my guru as well. So it is Devata through me accept someone to be Shishya or not.
Right.
So it is not like, that beautiful girl to come to me, yes, oh, yes, you are my shishya. And very rich person come, billionaire. I don't think if Klaus Schwab come to me and ask, so I know he will not. But for example, but I know sure that, my devata, from my devata, there are many signs that it is Rakshasas.
Yes.
So, but some people, they think, oh, no, it is rich, very powerful people. So, yes, come to be. It is personal. It is personal. Like, Jagi Vasudev, he came to Davos Forum.
Yeah.
It is not Devata, much higher than all this. This is rich, this is poor, this is powerful, not powerful. So this is beautiful, not so beautiful. So
correct.
So it happened through Ichha of Devata, through grace and through permission of Devata. It is not ego of Guru. Yes, I want that you will be my student, or student. Yes, I want that you should be you must, no, even must be my Guru. So you are insisting, you please come and teach and do this and do this. And if you tell to Guru, you should do this, it means you know better. If you know better, so then why you ask him something? Yes. So why you come?
Where is what is the reason for the Guru then? Yeah.
No point at all.
If you know everything, yeah.
Then you understand it is not a humbleness because somebody told you that humbleness is important, but you feel that you should be very attentive. You should be very curious, and through your peaceful condition, you are more sensible. You can search more through your natural condition of mind from your Gurudev. So this is it is inside of our nature. There is no need to refer to particular authorities. You feel it. That's a real condition of student who is very attentive. And concerning to Jyotisha, see almost all Indian sadhanas, are related to Jyotish. So you use Panchanga, and sometimes there could be a lot of questions because there are a lot of features, more than me. So you spend more time, especially to Jyotish. Yeah. And I saw a result of it. You predicted many things which happened.
I can say that it hasn't had many connection to this ayanamsha or that ayanamsha or particular calculations and whatnot. It had got more to do with the sadhana, with serious spiritual sadhana, which must be, as time goes, higher and higher and higher. And intuition is actually the highest form of intelligence. People doesn't know that because they want everything to put merely on a intellectualization playground. That is the reason why many of the Jyotishis fail actually in prediction, so to say. It's a vast subject, so we can maybe in the next part of the interview we can talk a little bit about every of these subjects as well. And for the very end, I want to tell to the viewers of this interview and a little bit of podcast as well, Guruji and as well as myself, everybody knows we are not native speakers of English language. So I propose to you, Guruji and his students have a beautiful site. I mentioned it in the first part as well, but again, it will be down there below this video. You can check their site, nathas.org. You can check the Guruji's blog as well. Everything is beautifully written over there in English language. And you have other options as well as Russian and other. That's the one thing. And the second thing is sometime in the future, when we finish with this fourth part of this interview, I think that wherever we will be, whether it is in Australia, in India, in Serbia, wherever, we can maybe record something spontaneously. But also from time to time, you can teach to us a bit choose a specific subject and then talk only about that subject. Another thing, there is a Natha's channel on the YouTube. There are some videos which are being translated on the English. I think it's an advisable thing to do so.
Thank you very much. Also, I feel that I should tell concerning to mother tongue, Matribhasha.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can see some people, they have the same background, they have the same language. Some of them sometimes very, very intellectual, and even some philosophers.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand each other.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like in my case with my Guruji,
mm-hmm.
I can understand him naturally.
Mm-hmm.
I can feel him even through silence.
Yes.
So therefore, I don't think that it is a problem. All problem is here.
Yes.
But not here.
Correct.
Not in there.
Correct. You mentioned the silence for the very end. When you were in Belgrade, a beautiful things happen. I cannot go into the details because these are very, my sadhana is very intimate thing. So maybe sometimes in the future, maybe some things I can reveal, but it doesn't matter. It's my personal thing. So, but I figured it out when you came. The most important, aside from the dikshas and everything else, the most important thing, the transmission of knowledge actually happened without you and me communicating, without using this apparatus. So it happened in silence. It needs to be experienced, most definitely. Yeah. And the problem as communication, because you mentioned even people who are from the same background of philosophers speaking the same language, whatever that language might be, but they at the end they don't understand each other, whether it is a thing of ego or a consciousness thing or whatever. For me, the problem today in today's world is that people actually does not listen to each other. They only use this and this, but actually they don't figure out that information on a deeper level. They only are waiting to hit the reply, just to speak more. Do you want to tell us something for the very end of this video, or we will continue immediately to the next one?
I wish be blessed, first of all, to you, to Serbian people, for everyone who will listen our communication or conversation. I hope they can understand the particular orientations, what is spirituality, what is the main motivation.
Mm-hmm.
So this is most important. So this is my blessings. You can say,
yes.
Sarva Mangalamastu.
Thank you so much, Guruji, once again, and stay blessed over there. We will continue. As for now, Adesh.
Adesh.